December 30th, 2024. For all of us news junkies out there, today's news cycle is, well, it's really something.
Yeah, a lot going on.
We got some pretty serious health concerns, and those are hitting really close to home for a lot of pet owners.
Yeah.
And then you've got these political battles brewing, some with potential global economic impact. And then, of course, we're also taking a moment to remember a truly remarkable life and legacy.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a deep dive today.
Oh, absolutely. So let's just jump right in. We're going to start with something that might make you think twice the next time you see your cat coming in from the backyard.
Oh, this is interesting. So we're seeing bird flu, H5N1, and it's acting in a new way.
Oh, really?
It's not just birds anymore.
Wow.
It's jumping to cats now.
No kidding.
We're seeing cases popping up in the U.S. and over in Poland.
And what's really striking is that this is all happening right now. This isn't something from, years past.
Right. These are brand new cases this year. And it's got people worried.
For sure. And, when you think about cats, with their hunting instincts, it makes them particularly vulnerable to this strain of bird flu.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Those little hunting trips they take, chasing after birds.
Right.
Well, that really increases their chances of coming into contact with an infected bird. And their immune systems, unfortunately, they just aren't as equipped to fight off this particular strain as, say, some other animals.
So it's a bit of a perfect storm for cats right now.
It really is.
So for all the cat owners out there listening, what can we do? I mean, are there steps we can take right now to protect our furry friends?
There are. The CDC and the WHO, they've been putting out guidance, and the big thing is to minimize exposure. That means keeping your cats indoors, at least for now. And then we've got to be really, really diligent about hygiene too. So washing our hands, after handling our cats, their food bowls, water bowls, all of it.
All right. So being extra careful, no more trips outside for Fluffy. And what about their food? Any special precautions there?
Yeah, actually. No more raw meat for Fluffy. Everything needs to be cooked thoroughly.
Makes you wonder, could this whole outbreak change how we think about owning pets in the future?
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point. I mean, we've seen how these outbreaks in other mammals like minks, seals, sea lions.
Right.
It just shows you how far something like this can spread. So yeah, it could change things for sure.
It's definitely something to think about. Okay, let's switch gears a bit now. Let's move over to the world of tech and politics. There's a story brewing there with some pretty high stakes.
This is a big one. Think of it like a tug of war, with the future of the U.S. tech industry hanging in the balance.
I like that analogy. That really paints a picture.
Right.
And we're seeing a familiar face back in the White House, right?
We are.
And his stance on H-1B visas, well, it's causing quite a stir, to say the least.
It is. You've got his supporters on one side and then tech giants and progressives on the other. It's a lot of tension.
So for those who might not be familiar, can you break down what H-1B visas are and why they're so important to the tech world?
Sure. So basically, H-1B visas, they allow U.S. companies to hire highly skilled foreign workers, often in these specialized fields where we're actually seeing shortages here in the U.S.
So it's like if you're trying to build a rocket, but you're missing some key parts, the H-1B workers, they bring those missing pieces, those unique skills and expertise.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. But there's a whole other side to this story, of course.
Right, because there are a lot of people, especially those who support the current administration, who say that limiting these visas actually protects American jobs. They believe that companies should be hiring Americans first.
Absolutely. And that argument resonates with a lot of people. But then you have the tech companies and the progressives, and they're pushing back hard. They're saying that restricting these visas actually makes the problem worse.
So, how so?
Well, they argue that we're already dealing with a massive talent shortage in tech. And if companies can't find the skilled workers they need, then innovation slows down, projects get delayed, and in the end, America's competitiveness in the global tech race takes a hit.
So it's this economic balancing act. On one hand, you want to protect American jobs, but on the other hand, you want to make sure that the tech industry here can keep innovating and thriving.
Exactly. It's tricky.
Is there any data out there that supports either side?
Oh yeah, there's a ton of data, and it paints a pretty clear picture.
Okay, lay it on me.
One study actually projects a shortage of, get this, 1.4 million skilled workers in chip manufacturing alone by 2030, and that's just one small part of the tech industry.
Wow. 1.4 million, that's a huge number.
It is, and it shows just how urgent this issue is. But it's not just about numbers.
Well-
Research has shown that the companies that actually do secure those H-1B workers, they have higher survival rates.
Really?
Yeah, and they contribute significantly more to economic growth.
So it's not just about individual companies. It's about the health of our economy as a whole.
Exactly. But we can't forget that there are real people at the heart of all of this. Local communities, families, they're all deeply impacted by these policies.
Yeah. It's easy to get lost in the numbers and the data, but these are real human stories we're talking about. So what is the right balance here? How do we protect American jobs while still ensuring that the tech industry here has the talent it needs to keep up globally?
It's a tough question. No easy answers. And honestly, I think this could lead to some major changes in immigration policy down the road.
It'll definitely be interesting to see how this all plays out. Okay, we're going to take a bit of a turn here. We've been covering some pretty intense topics. So let's take a moment to remember a life well lived. We want to acknowledge the passing of former President Jimmy Carter at the age of 98.
President Carter, he was a true statesman. I mean, just his unwavering commitment to human rights and peace, it's remarkable. He left a huge mark on American politics. But his legacy, it goes way beyond his time in office.
I think that's what's so incredible about him. It's his work after his presidency that really stands out.
Oh, absolutely. The Carter Center.
Yes.
I mean, what an incredible force for good in the world.
Founded by President Carter and Rosalind, his wife, back in 1982, the Carter Center, their mission is to promote democracy, prevent disease, resolve conflict. And they've done some truly remarkable things.
They have. I mean, from monitoring elections in new democracies to fighting against diseases like guinea worm, their impact has been felt all over the world.
It's truly inspiring. And, what I find really remarkable is that even after leaving office, he was able to rise above all the political division and earn the respect of people from all walks of life.
I agree. His dedication to peace, human rights, diplomacy, it resonated with so many people. And honestly, those values, they're just as important today, maybe even more so in our world that often feels so divided.
It makes you wonder, as we reflect on President Carter's life and legacy, what lessons can we learn from his dedication to service? How can we, even in our own small ways, embody those values and work towards positive change?
That's a really powerful question, and one that I think speaks to the very heart of his legacy.
Yeah.
He really showed us that leadership isn't just about, holding some position of power.
Right.
It's about using what you have, your platform, your voice, your actions, to make a real difference in the world.
And he did that his entire life, not just when he was president. It's like a reminder that we can all be leaders in our own way.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I think resonates so much today, especially with all the challenges we're facing.
Yeah, it can be a lot to take in sometimes, but, Carter's life, it's really a testament to resilience, that belief that things can get better.
It's so easy to get caught up in all the, the headlines, the negativity, the information overload. But then you have stories like his that remind us that there's still so much good in the world.
For sure.
There are people out there working so hard to make a difference, fighting for justice, promoting peace, helping those who are sick, educating the next generation.
It's true. Those stories need our attention too.
They do.
We need to share them, celebrate them.
We've talked about some tough stuff today, from bird flu to those H-1B visas. But I think it's important to step back for a second and just acknowledge how everything's connected.
I agree completely. These events, they might seem separate at first glance, but they're all linked in ways we might not even realize.
Like take the bird flu, for instance.
Right.
It really highlights that delicate balance in our ecosystem.
Right.
How what we do can have consequences for animals and then ultimately for us too, for our own health and well-being.
Absolutely. And then you have that H-1B visa debate, which brings up all these complexities about globalization,
Right.
competition for talent in tech, and then all the economic and social stuff that comes with immigration policies.
And it's like running through all of this is this idea of leadership. The kind that Carter had that goes beyond politics and really focuses on human values, on compassion, on empathy, on striving for peace and justice.
I think that's a really important point. Even when things are tough, when the world feels chaotic, we still have the power to choose hope, to choose action, to choose to make a difference.
And that choice, that's what's so powerful. Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground today, haven't we?
Yeah, it's been a real deep dive.
We've tackled some pretty complex issues and some tough topics. But that's what makes these conversations so important, right?
I think so.
It's by really looking at these issues closely, understanding all the nuances and how everything connects, that we can start to understand the world around us a little better.
And that's what I hope our listeners get out of this. It's not just about knowing the facts, but it's about being engaged, asking questions, challenging what we think we know, and then using what we learn to actually do something to make a difference.
Exactly. We've talked about bird flu, H-1B visas, President Carter's legacy.
Yeah,
I mean, they might seem like totally separate things,
right.
but they're all connected in a way. They're all part of this big picture.
We're constantly bombarded with information these days. It's easy to just feel overwhelmed and tune it all out.
Yeah, it really is.
And that's why I think it's so important to have these spaces where we can actually slow down and think things through.
I agree. We need places where we can process, analyze, connect the dots. And that's what we've tried to do today.
We've really dug deep into these news stories,
Right.
explored different angles, and hopefully we've made our listeners a little bit more curious about the world.
So, as we wrap things up here, I want to leave everyone with this thought. Don't let the news consume you. Stay informed, of course,
Right.
but stay engaged, stay curious, and most importantly, stay hopeful.
There's still so much good in the world, so much to be grateful for, and so much worth fighting for.
So keep asking those questions, keep learning, keep connecting with each other, and keep making your voices heard.
You're not alone in all of this. We're all in this together.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. We'll be back soon with more stories and more conversations. Until then, stay curious.